Hello and welcome to the Beyond B2B Marketing podcast. I'm your host, Odden, CEO of Top Rank Marketing, and today our guest is someone who has been on the front line of creativity and B2B marketing for well over 25 years. He's a champion of big, long, creative ideas and putting B2B marketing cliches to rest. Of course, I'm talking about Reuben Webb, B2B Editorial Lead at The Drum. Welcome to the show, Reuben.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm delighted to be here.
It's great to have you. So you've had an impressive career in B2B marketing over the last 25 years. You've been at Stein IAS, and I'd love to start at the beginning. And this is something I like to ask everyone that comes on the show. What's your B2B marketing origin story? Like how did you get into marketing in the first place?
Yep, yeah, it's a good place to start. Well, the like all the best stories, it's about a girl, and so I met this lovely girl at university, and we went traveling the world together. And when we got back, her dad, a guy named Tim Hazelhurst, um, wanted us to settle down, and quite rightly so. He was like, "You guys need some grounding here. You can't be traveling for the rest of your lives." And and she was far too proud to take a job at her father's company, but I wasn't. And he offered me a job. He offered me a job there as a junior copywriter. And
Wow.
really what I had was an English literature degree from university. So, that kind of qualified me. And I've spoken to quite a lot of people since, and that kind of qualified them to get into copywriting as well. And and so he was running an agency called IAS in Macclesfield. And IAS stands for, and this is interesting bit of B2B history right here. It stands for Industrial Art Services. Now, that was Tim Tim's articulation of B2B marketing
Wow.
before the term B2B marketing had been invented. So he started that
Wow.
agency in 1973, the year I was born. I started working there as a junior copywriter in the year 2000. And yeah, and the rest is history. But it was an accident. It was a very generous act of an absolute B2B marketing legend, by the way, Tim Hazelhurst. He's got an incredible pedigree, and he taught me many of the things that I still espouse today. But so that's
That's a
it.
great story. Love it. Love it. That's a great story. So fast forward to today, and you are editorial B2B editorial lead at the Drum. Can you share a little bit about, and I can't imagine who wouldn't know about the Drum, but could you share a little bit about the publication and then about your current role and how you made the decision to go from the agency side of things, where you were quite successful, and now over to the successful role on the editorial side of things?
Yeah, sure. So the Drum is a media platform that has always covered marketing, and they started off as and it's still a family run company to this day. They started off as a small startup in Scotland, and they were part of the Scottish advertising universe, which is small and everybody knows each other, and it's great fun. And I know I've met a lot of that universe in my time. Still work with many of them today, and essentially, I think the success of the Drum is due to their, I, for want of a better word, I want to call it a slightly punky attitude to um, to
Yeah.
journalism and media, and I think they have built a really good reputation for people who are happy to say yes to ideas that other people might not, and actually that is what has drawn me to it, because it's funny actually. I'm just preparing a presentation for next week to do to the company to thank them for bringing me in, and I'm going to tell them this. I'm going to tell them that the reason I've joined that company is because they have always, across their history, let B2B be what it wants to be. Okay. And so I'm getting loads of really good pitches from people who want to be in the drum on the B2B side, because we're investing heavily in our B2B offering now. We're taking that up a level. Again, no coincidence that I've I've arrived there to be a part of that. What I see as one of the a fantastic opportunity. Um, and and so people come to the drum because they know they can say things that in traditionally in B2B and other places in B2B they probably couldn't. Just through other editorial approaches and other attitudes to creativity.
I want to talk about an industry level question too. The B2B marketing itself has spent many years fighting this sort of boring to boring stereotype, right? But you kind of alluded to this already. Earlier in your career, you really recognized that B2B marketing was a much bigger creative opportunity than many other people did. And I'm just wondering, from your perspective, what are some of the creative principles or concepts in B2B marketing that you found in your career to be timeless?
Yeah, so when I've always loved when I realized, as I started in my job, as I've alluded to, I didn't know what B2B marketing was.
Hmm.
I didn't really appreciate what B2C marketing was either. I was a literature student and I just arrived from traveling in Asia for years, and I was like, what is all this stuff? But anyway, as I started to appreciate what B2B marketing was and how it was different to consumer marketing. Why I stayed with it is because of the principle that it is all about the fabric of society. And so and I liked exploring the fabric of society, and as a marketer within that, stitching together all the things that make up civilized society, from the bricks to the cables to the roads to the technology to the waterways, to all these things that hold us together as the civilized world. I was like, I feel that I'm part of something noble, and that when I help people do things within that space, I feel like I'm making a positive contribution. And I always felt that. And I felt it as compared to, particularly as I started to realize, oh yeah, I'm being advertised at all the time. And some of the advertising I see, I don't necessarily agree with, and I realized that I wouldn't want to be a part of that. And so, selling sugary cereals to young people, I don't want to get up in the morning and do that. I don't want to sell. I don't want to sell the. There's a lot of There's so much gambling advertising in the UK in particular, and again, I'm like, I don't want to sell gambling to people who might develop a gambling problem. So I felt really vindicated working in B2B marketing, and I'm not saying it's like holier than thou, because every B2C company has a B2B angle, right? But I just felt enough distance from marketing things that I didn't really want to be involved with, and I just felt proud to be a B2B marketer. So that's and that doesn't really answer the creative principle thing, but don't worry, we'll talk a lot more about creativity
Well, let's
as we go through this. But
we should talk
I
about
just
your
think,
book. We should
yeah,
talk
yeah,
about the
we're
book. So
not.
you so
Yeah, perfect.
now it was a little bit ago, in 2013, you published a book, 101 cliches, right? That called out industry and agencies' sort of safe and repetitive habits. And now, I'm wondering, how much progress do you think B2B marketing has really made creatively um, in that time? Especially in the context of AI.
I knew you could ask this question, which is why I grabbed a copy of the book off my shelf. Now, this I think was it this one? was the first one that we did at IAS, 2008.
Oh,
So
really? Okay.
yeah, this is 2008 when we produced the first one. And for those of you that don't know what this is, it's it's 101 B2B marketing cliches in a book. Number one is the light bulb, which stands for an idea. And you see that still in every PowerPoint presentation around the world that you do. And it goes on from there to talk about various other cliches like the baton. I still see that one out there today. Um, why I wrote that in 2008 was because I was starting to get annoyed with how bloody cliched B2B marketing can be. And so you're asking me how much progress have we made creatively? Well, that is a really interesting question. Um, because I would say that we have made progress. And I think you can look at the moment. There was a key moment which I think everyone in B2B was aware of when the B2B Lions were introduced at the Cannes Festival of Advertising. Now, that's like 4 years ago, I think it is. Um, and I went to Cannes for the first time because of that. I went with my great friend Tom Stein, and we had the best week, and it was really exciting. Um, and I think that for me was a real key moment. However, I think it was a sugar rush, right? Because if everybody started to talk about it like this was a renaissance actually happening, and that B2B was now going to be as creative a force as B2C, and we'll never look back from here. And that was kind of
Right.
how excited people were getting about this moment. And the truth is that business, big business, which is the institution that is B2B,
Yeah.
doesn't change overnight. It's the same. It's the same as
Indeed.
countries and governments trying to introduce new policies or trying to get new policies through. It's that big a beast that no one has just gonna snap their fingers and suddenly everyone in B2B is has drank the Kool-Aid that they need to be as creative as B2C is, and treat people as the emotional beings they are, and have really great fun in their advertising and be entertaining. Okay. And I think B2B is having a bit of an identity crisis with this. Yeah. It Social media has arrived to change the game completely. And this is for me what made B2B people confront this reality that B2B people like to be entertained just like other people, because they are
Right.
those people. And
Yeah.
they're on social media, and they know what they're looking for and interested in, and everybody's sharing everything from around the world. So you've got this huge view of what entertainment looks like and what holds the attention. And everybody is starting to make their own conclusions about that. And I think that is the most powerful force that has affected B2B, because it's exposing the people that are then going, right, yeah, but I don't want to be entertaining. This is too serious for entertainment. Okay, that's fine, but on your head be it, because guess what? People are going to look at the stuff that entertains them, and you're going to get less of their attention. Now, so the arguments are obvious and the arguments are clear, and I totally believe and back every single person who is fighting for a more creative B2B approach in marketing. I back everyone to the hilt, and every argument I hear, I agree with. But I would say that this is an oil tanker, right? Let's take
Yeah,
a
it's
big
gonna take a
B2B
while
thing.
to
Let's take a big B2B thing like an oil tanker. They
Yeah.
take a while to turn around. And the
Yeah.
idea that we're gonna turn this ship around, and everybody's gonna be celebrating B2B creativity for forevermore as the best thing in marketing. It's naive, frankly, and so
Yeah.
I think
But Ruben, we're
B2B
fighting the
solve
good fight, right? Like, we're
we are
here
fighting a
talking
good
about this
fight.
topic. Yeah.
And so my message to everyone is don't stop fighting the good fight because you need to fight. This fight is way from won and it needs campaigning. You know, we B2B needs to be continuously campaigning to get this message across until it starts to stick. Um,
Exactly.
Hunt it down everywhere, complain about it, tell everybody, show everybody, Reuben wrote a book in 2008. We're still using the crap in there today. It's true, we are. So B2B is no way off the hook as far as creativity goes.
So in B2B marketing, there's this, I don't know if it's a real or just people manufacture these debates for attention, but there's this brand versus demand conversation that continues to occur. And I'm wondering from your perspective, where does creativity fit in that brand versus demand equation? I mean, can't great creative drive both?
Yes. The short answer to that question is yes, it absolutely can. And I think, let's start at the easy end, the end that you've heard from lots of people, and that is that good brand work, good creative brand work that engages people, that highlights the meaningful difference of your company and itself is meaningfully different. That will help people recall you at the point when they actually start to look for a product in your category. That is a really good idea and everybody should do it. So, in other words, brand is future demand. Um,
Exactly.
right? So that is true, but that's not new, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of people talking about, it, and I back them all to the hill. I believe that passionately. So now let's look at the difficulty then. The difficulty is taking a really good, strong brand idea and weaving it in seamlessly, effortlessly to the content that sits at the demand end of the funnel, right? So so can you take your brand story, your brand idea, and can you make it manifest in a sales calculator comparison tool or your white papers or your case studies? I think the answer is yes, but I think it's a very hard thing to do. It's a very hard thing to do from an organizational point of view to actually for someone to have the vision and the will to make that happen in an enterprise, all those touch points ladder up to what the brand is about, which is also what the product that's being bought is about. It's the brand is all of it. But to have an idea that you can carry through all of it takes an enormous power of will that and organizational structure and belief and also a brilliant idea that's flexible enough to do it. So I taught you
Mhm.
mentioned the big long idea.
Yes.
That was my original theory about that very thing. And I've been talking about it for 20 well not maybe 20 years. Okay. You need the big long idea approach, which unites brand and demand. Okay. The, so people love the theory, but the times that I actually got to implement one, probably, I don't know. I might be able to think back a few, but it was a hard thing it was an easy thing to sell theoretically. It was a very hard thing to get people to deliver in reality. And I'm not sure how many of them are out there to this day. So again, I think the brand and demand debate is very good and it's the right debate to be having. But at the moment, it's an easy theoretical debate. It's much harder to actually do in practice.
It's part of the turning of the ship, isn't it? It's what are the,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. So again, and these are the things. This is why it's important to keep talking about it. You know, it's if you're getting bored of brand and demand, the conversation, then I hope that you have a really great big long idea in place and you're killing it. Otherwise,
Exactly.
you've got to be part of that conversation, I'm afraid.
I know I used the expression AI already, or maybe I didn't, I don't know, but we're gonna talk
Yeah.
about it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I
Eh
could talk all day about AI. Don't worry. Yeah, I like it.
yeah,
Everybody
so
else.
many things. So we're in this age where AI can generate all the things, right? Content, images, video, and with agentic systems, even campaigns at scale. Sorry, I'm a little yeah, I'll believe it when I see it, in terms of quality. Anyway, my question is, how do you think that trend or that movement, that AI-powered movement on the creation side changes the value of human creativity? I mean, I'll just kinda lead the question a little or the answer a little bit maybe just I'm thinking that maybe originality and creative thinking are even more important right now in this age
Yeah,
of AI.
yeah, yeah. I think, we got I'm pausing because I just don't know where to start. But I'll just start. Okay. So let's go straight in on the premise of originality being now one of the most important skills. I think that is absolutely true. I think, and I don't just think it's true. I know it's true because I'm practicing it, and I'm in close contact with people, B2B creative directors, who are also practicing it. And and I know people now who have become so much more independent because essentially they they were the strategic idea person, and suddenly they are empowered with a ton of tools that can actually just create a very, very persuasive. Let's take pitch decks, right? This is the lifeblood of the B2B agency universe. So so I think back, even, I mean, I think 5 years ago, it was still yeah, it was still done pretty much the way it was done 25 years ago. And and that was you came up with the idea and you decided on the tactics you were gonna distribute that idea across, and then you worked with a good set of people. Some of them could draw, some of them would work the Mac like a whirling dervish. Some of them would write, and you would get this system going where it was like, okay, right, you're going to handle the direct mail piece, right? You guys are on that. Here's what it looks like roughly. Okay, this is how we're going to get the idea across in there. Go, you team DM, go. All right, you guys are on the web experience, right? How we're going to do this, and it was a hell of a lot of fun, and I absolutely loved it, and it was such a great community feeling. Now I imagine that is still going on to a degree, but I do know this. I know creative directors who used to do it that way that can now do that all on their own because they've had an idea. So they've had an idea and they can literally now work with a machine to go, right, these are the tactics I have chosen. I want you to take this idea and I want you to write the copy for the event stand, right? Here it is. And then bang, you've got an event stand with words in perfect places, the client's logo where you need it. It's incredible what has happened. So so I think that answers the question that right now, if that's true, then which is the valuable part of that? It's the part
Mhm.
where you had the idea,
Right.
right? And I still believe, and I'm trying, by the way. Oh, I'm trying. I'm trying to get in. I'm trying to get Claude and ChatGPT to have really good ideas, but the thing that they can't replicate for me is the unexpected. I still find that it's like a good idea. is unexpected. So if you're gonna break a B2B category and do something that people go, "Oh, that's great. I never thought of that," but it's kind of obvious, but it kind of isn't, right? And that's what
Right.
makes a great idea. Um,
It's
then
irrational. The nuanced, right? It's something that is based on the flawed thinking or unique ways of thinking that humans bring to these sorts of things, right? And it's not a
totally.
predictive sort of thing necessarily.
Yes, no, it's about randomization. That's essentially that the human mind is really good uh, at being random um, when you need it to be.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like let's try some different combinations. Let's connect two worlds that aren't connected. So I think people are still better at that than the machines, and so I think your premise is right. I think we'd listen. I'll stop there on that question because I think we're going to get some other stuff. Because I
Sure,
also
sure.
I have warnings for B2B about some of this, but yeah, I agree with the premise that originality is probably the most important thing in the creative space and the strategic space.
Yeah, I've always thought of as I've been experimenting with AI systems for a long time, AI makes you more of what you are. Is kind of how I think of it. In that if you're a really creative person, you're going to get a lot different outputs than someone who really doesn't know a whole lot about a thing. At best, they're going to get an average output, and no one wins with average. And so I think that the emphasis on the originality of human idea is persistently valuable, and we're not there yet where that could be in a meaningfully way replicated yet, right? If there was that qualifier. So on in terms of content that is being produced, campaigns are being produced that are heavily AI generated. And I'm seeing companies that are, you know, I mean, a lot of marketers are getting laid off in the US. A lot of marketing departments are getting laid off right now. And companies are investing in agentic systems to automate what should or could be automated.
Yeah.
And that's having a certain kind of impact, especially on the output. So to me, there are tells with AI generated content, kind of like ripples in the matrix, right? Or it just blends in, right? Because of this average output sort of scenario. And as someone who spent your entire career, pushing creative B2B boundaries, do you think we're at risk of, over automating? You know, um, the concept of filter bubble, right? In terms of algorithms that, predictive analytics and that sort of thing that make recommendations based on existing data. And if there's never any new data, how do we come up with original ideas, right?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Listen, the thing is, I'm I'm less worried about this than
Hmm.
than than some other people,
Okay.
and the reason for that is that having spent my whole career trying to persuade people to be above average and often failing, um, I think B2B has already got an average problem, right? It's had an average, the race to the middle has been on for decades in B2B. And so I think the conversation that now agentic AI is going to what is a worry because we're all going to get to this very sort of average middle of B2B. We've been there for 25 years, 30
Okay.
years, 40 years. I think if you look back, if you aggregated B2B communication over the last 20 years, you would probably see, and you would see that and go, some average robot did that. Uh, and he just kept picking one from here, one from there, changed the hard hat to a nurse's hat or whatever, just so I'm less worried about it from a creative point of view. And 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 actually, again, it's a fantastic opportunity for the people that want to be original, because it it is happening, but I think it's happening rather cynically as well. And this is the thing about B2B tanker turnaround, because of, because of being more creative, right? We need to be more creative. I think there are cynical people who don't care about that aspect of B2B marketing. Um, and they're going, hang on a minute, or I used to employ people to do very average work. Now I can employ a machine to do very average work. And I'm fine. And I'm fine. I've always been fine with it, and I'm still fine with it.
Okay.
And so this is why we need to fight for creativity, because we're fighting for humans. Yeah, we're fighting for humans. And I will say, B2B has no one to blame for itself, that but itself, that
Right.
now there's a race of agent robots that can do our job just as well as we could, because what we were doing was so bloody average. And so if this isn't a wake-up call, people, to say, fight for creativity in B2B, because that will save human jobs. Learn to be more creative in B2B. Fight for your place against these damn machines that are just doing our jobs as well as we've done them for decades.
Right
That's
on.
the terrible truth,
Yep.
that I have to that I believe.
Yeah. Well, we'll do our best to get the word out, right? Um,
Yeah, we need to fight these bloody things. But
yes.
it's when you go to a cynical CEO and go, We don't do this, don't do this. Look at all the amazing things we've done over the last 20 years that couldn't have been done by AI." And he goes, "Oh, hang on, no, it's all the same." You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now we wish we had an original portfolio for our B2B brands.
Right. Right. There are bigger fish to fry, as in the yeah, the race to the middle. I love that. Well, in your role now at the drum, you've got a front row seat to what's happening in the industry globally, literally. And I'm just wondering, what are some of the themes or trends that are getting your attention in B2B marketing the most right now?
The one that keeps surfacing, and rightly so. One of the biggest. I think we've talked about the creative impact of AI, and I think you've got my views there, and that's still a big topic. But I think one of the most interesting things that's happening is in the measurement community. So the effectiveness and measurement community are facing the arrival of the LLM, going from what used to be a search journey to now we're in the answer journey era, because everybody who's going to enter into a buying process has found this magical tool that takes so much of that pain away. And and it's good at it, right? So for me, the B2B measurement community, it's like an alien species has landed right in the middle of it. And everybody's like, what does the machine want?
Yeah.
How does the machine think? And so for me, it is like an arrival moment, and I think this is really interesting. And people are having to find completely rethink how they're going to measure B2B marketing success. And that for me is a brilliant topic that I'm really interested in. I just did a webinar with LinkedIn about it, and I was listening to people how they're approaching it. And everybody's got a bit of a different view, and no one seems to have the whole answer worked out, that's for sure. So I
Right.
think
Right.
it's a space that we really need to keep an eye on, because essentially, what is the challenge? We're no longer just marketing to people; we are also marketing to intelligent machines.
Yeah. Yeah. You
What
know,
do
the
they
the
want from us?
the age of the answer resonates quite a bit because interestingly, the entire marketing OS that we operate off of is called Best Answer Marketing. And it's about how to architect information and experiences in all the channels that matter, um, that resonate both with humans, but also we're marketing to those agents, right? And one of the pillars of that is a unified analytics approach that helps to answer that question about how can we effectively measure across all these surfaces. Anyway, the answer idea is something that really, really resonates because of that.
Yeah, cool. Well, you're gonna have to tell me more about your approach. You know, bring it bring it to the bring it to my editorial party by all means. That's an open invitation.
Okay. Um, so I'm wondering, because of your, again, your visibility to what's happening in the industry right now with your role at the Drum, is there a recent B2B campaign that really made you stop and think like, we need to see more of this sort of thing?
Yes. Yes, there is. Not there's not enough of them. But let me just say that and this is so. Thanks for asking that question. And now let me just do a little pitch as the editorial lead at the Drum for B2B. If you've got a brilliant B2B campaign that you want me to place on the Drum and celebrate, just send it to me. I'm crying out for this, please. I'd love to see it. I'd love to celebrate it. And here's the campaign that I did just that with, because I thought it was so brilliant. And that was a campaign for Fiverr. So Fiverr's the freelancer gig economy platform. Um, and they have just launched a new hub full of AI film directors. So directors that work purely in AI, which is interesting, sign of the times. But what they did to announce this, I don't know whether you heard about it, but they put up a sign in the Hollywood Hills that was as big as the Hollywood sign, right? And you could see the Hollywood sign and you could see this sign, and their sign said Billy Bowman. Okay, just that. It was Billy Bowman. And essentially and Billy Bowman's one of their AI directors on the hub. Honestly, you could check out the work he's doing in AI,
We'll
and
do. We'll
honestly,
we'll link to it.
it's far out. You know, you're looking at it and going, "I'm not sure I could tell." Like, I'm not sure I could tell. You know, it's like if you put the real thing in front of me and that thing, and ask me which one's I'm just not sure. You know, so it's getting that good to and like express human emotion, which I thought was always a thing. You know, if ever I've dabbled with it, I can't. You know, I can never get things to fit together. But the people who are getting good at it, and I'm not sure what tools they're using, are getting really good at it. And so this campaign it was calling out Hollywood and saying, "Your days are numbered. It's the time of guys like Billy Bowman."
Right,
Um,
right.
and literally railing against how expensive and how wasteful it is to make advertising in the Hollywood mode. So, massive production crews, all your sets just go in the bin afterwards, right? And and you look at that model and it's like versus one dude who can make this incredible film that it's really hard to tell the difference. You know, the argument for it is really strong. And it's not a popular argument, and it's not one that I'm all in on by any means. You know, I value traditional production methods because it's done by people, and I still believe that people bring a certain magic and unexpectedness to the film set and everything else like that. I'm not coming down on the side of this. Obviously, I could be independent here now at long last. Um, so so, but it was cool. And why was it cool? Why did I think it was good? It was because it not only was it just like a really bold thing to do and pull off, um, the bravery element was to come down on one side of an argument. And B2B is not good at doing that. B2B likes to hedge its bets. It likes to keep everybody happy. Keep everybody happy and we'll be okay. Or keep everybody happy and no one will notice you is more to the point. And if you can come down on the side of an argument, and like Fiverr, their brand, they're saying this, but they've got lots of people who you can hire that are using traditional methods. And I think it was a really mature approach for a B2B brand to go, we're happy to do this to get a conversation started, right? Because a conversation is happening, needs to happen. And one view of that conversation is that AI video directors are superior to the traditional methods. Discuss. And we've done a cool thing to start that discussion. And I thought it was just really, that's what brave looks like, right? People talk about being brave in B2B. That's what brave looks like. It means coming down on the side of an argument and being brave enough to just to defend it, to defend that argument, which they did.
Exactly. That notion of bravery is like, if you don't stand for something, you stand for nothing. And how will you ever stand out, right?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. That sums up what I just said in 3 or 4 words. Well done.
Well,
You a
um,
copywriter. You a cop
brute force copywriter. I'm a blunt instrument copywriter, maybe, but I've been practicing and I'm still practicing. Switching gears a little bit, at Top Rank Marketing, our agency, we've been building influencer programs for like 14 years for B2B brands, and we published multiple research reports on this topic. And we've been seeing an even greater acceleration of interest and discussion around B2B influence, creators, communities, and collaborating with trusted experts. And I'm wondering, from your perspective, do you think this shift towards more human voices and personalities is connected in some way to a growing hunger for authenticity, a hunger for creativity?
Yes, I do. I do. I think, and I'm really pleased about it, by the way. And I, kudos for you guys to being front runners, because I think a lot of people are turning on to this now, and they're realizing that. So there's a lot of debate in the market about trust. Yeah. So trust is back
Hmm.
on the menu big time
Yes,
in
sir.
in B2B. And what's driving it? Let's look at the things that are driving it. And so I think, and these are just my views, I think that what's driving it is the fact that there's such a proliferation now of decent quality content, of all kinds, produced by who, our friend, your friend and mine, AI. That people are that is now good quality average content is no longer enough, whereas 5-6 years ago it was, because it was about consistency, it was about presence and consistency, with content that sounded really credible, right? And because that wasn't that easy to produce. It wasn't. You had to think about it. You had to write it. You had to go in and grab the people who were the experts, subject matter experts, get them to sit down and do this thing. And they didn't want to do it. They wanted to do their job, right? They didn't want to go and do a marketing project. They wanted to do product development of things that they got into the business for. So to create good quality content was difficult. Now, I think that, you talk to Claude or Chat GPT and tell them to be a subject matter expert in food ingredients, right? That industry. I think it'll again take the Pepsi challenge with most people in the organization. There'll be
Right.
sparks, but if I was those people, I'd start there and then I'd put my little expert layer on top. And that's exactly what's happening. Let's get it right. So we've got a ton of content out there that is very good and credible. You've got all the imagery, the AI imagery out there, slot on top of decent, informative imagery, great. Um, and people are going, I don't know. It's all, what should I trust here? Back to basics. We trust people. People trust people. And really, I think, honestly, Lee, I think you can just get it right down to that. People trust people. And so I think that is being recognized by all sorts of brands and the creators themselves. And people are seeing the opportunity now to come into B2B as a genuine creator. So we've got all the types, right? You're seeing people who are coming in and being funny, just like the cool people on TikTok be funny, you know? It's people making fun stuff. And then you've got your subject matter experts, you've got your employee advocates, you've got all sorts of people that are now more valuable than ever and seeing the opportunity to create content and create demand for their product as a human creator. So I think it's a fantastic um, consequence of the AI revolution that get where people are winning because people trust people and they want to hear from them. And so if you're wondering what to do next in your career, my advice is to become a B2B content creator.
Well, it's certainly something that's on the rise, and I think there's an interesting intersection with influencers, influencer content creators, and creativity. So I wanted to bring up some research that reflects this that we've done. And our last research report found 64% of B2B marketers said that unique content is one of the biggest differentiators in successful influencer programs, and 61% pointed to creative influencer campaigns specifically. So, my question for you is, do you think it's the case that creativity plays a role in B2B creator collaborations, right? Like it's one thing to have a credible person say some nice things about your brand or about your category, but it's another thing if they do it creatively.
I'm glad you got data on it because again, I'm talking. I'm giving you my opinion, and I've worked with influencers, and what I found was the lesson I learned quickly was don't try and influence them too much on what your brand is. Don't make them swallow drink the Kool-Aid, right?
Right.
Don't do it, and don't don't dictate to them what to say, essentially.
Right.
That's really what I'm trying to say. Let them say, give them they're intelligent people, they're creative people. Tell them what it is you're trying to do and get across and your message and your story, and let them deliver that in the way they want to. Because that will be they got to where they are. You're talking to them because they're good at that and they're good at being original and they're good at being creative. So the worst thing you can do is try and manipulate that side of them. Give them the brief, tell them what it is you're trying to stand for and why they're involved, and then let them do something original. Let them do something that that is creative. These guys are called creators for a reason, and
Yeah, yeah.
so and whoever that be, thought leadership is from somebody who's good doing a comedy skit, which I encourage, get that in your B2B campaign, definitely. But bringing in thought leaders, let them give you their leading thoughts. Not your leading thoughts if you're if you haven't actually got any, because that might be why you're employing this person.
Well, having people parrot brand talking points is the blandest thing ever. The whole reason to engage someone who has their own perspective is to contextualize and validate, original ideas that might be born out of the brand's thought leadership or might be an interpretation. And that's the authenticity that is why that person is influential in the first place. It's the whole reason to engage them is to have them interpret what's valuable about what your category or your company is to their audience. They can translate for them. And then that's why distribution and engagement and trust can be so effective. So we're speaking the same
Absolutely. And
language there.
yeah, the thing is, people have this, again, I encourage everyone working in B2B because I see a lot of editorial content coming through. about the same topics in the same way. And I'm like, look, all you need to do is find your own personal way of expressing about this topic. And suddenly it's interesting. Suddenly it becomes interesting. Use your own, use a story analogy, you used to go horse riding as a kid. Tell me how that relates to the topic of truth and the rise of authenticity, or whatever it may be. But you've got to make it interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it reminds me of the old sales adage, "Facts tell, but stories sell," right? You just can't go wrong with stories. So in your work, right, you've got visibility, in your career across, UK and European markets and globally, right? And I'm wondering if, because the US has, there's a lot going on, I guess, but to say the least. But are there, and from a creative and B2B marketing perspective, are there any meaningful differences that you've seen in how B2B creativity is approached in, let's say, UK or European markets versus in the US?
Yes, definitely. So I you sent me this question, and I thought about this, and so I apologize in advance to everybody. I'm going to have to make generalizations. So because there's no other way to do that when you're comparing national behavior to national behavior. So you got to let me off the hook here, guys. Um, so let's start with Europe. Over the years, and I think it's still true today, B2B marketing campaigns, and marketing campaigns in general, I think, are very visually led. The the visual expression is really important, and there's that you look at, particularly from Northern Europe to Southern Europe, I think it's true. And design's really important, aesthetics are super important, and you look at what's happening culturally in these countries, and there is so much rich cultural visual expression that I think it's ingrained in a way that. So I went to an agency, spent a lot of time at an agency in Italy, loved fantastic people. And I was really struck by just how the so they were so passionate about the art direction, and very few words, but everything just it had to be perfect. And their craft in creating the visuals for their campaigns. So I would say that European campaigns, and I'm in continental Europe,
Right.
visually led, right? Visually led, and I'm guessing I think it comes from the rich cultural history going back centuries upon centuries, where aesthetics are incredibly important. So now let's go all the way over to the other side, right? Let's go to the other side of the pond. Generalizing here, I think that the majority of the patterns I see in American campaigns are very verbally led. Okay. So I have never seen better headlines in B2B marketing per se, than I have in America. That the craft of writing the cute, cool headline is immaculate in the United States of America. There's no one on earth that does this better. Okay? Which hurts me as a Brit. And as a copywriter. And as a copywriter. But so it's and less attention paid to the visual details, and you'll often see B2B campaigns for B2B brands. I see them on the metro, right? I get mixed up. Is it the metro? I'm the subway. I'm the
A subway.
tube. You're the subway, right? Yeah, right. So
Yeah.
it's I go a lot of places. Come on, help me out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so there I am. I'm on the subway, and I'm seeing some of the best copy I've ever seen. And I think as a generalization, America is very verbally led, as in the words. And listen to your radio ads; they're outstanding, right? Um, and then you come back to Britain, and what is it that Britain represents? And I think the tolerance for humor is in B2B is best in Britain. I think Britain produces some of the more funny
Yeah.
campaigns that touch that level, that emotion, the humorous side of things. So, if it's like, who's best at what? Europe, visuals. Britain, we're funny. The Americans, sorry, I be doing that. The Americans, super, just the best words in the world. Anyway, there you go.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I think.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I think people listening and watching will too. So let's wind down with some advice from you. If you were giving advice to a younger B2B marketer that's coming into the industry right now, what skills or habits would you encourage in them to be successful long term?
Yeah, and first, I just like to say to anybody that is joining, welcome. Come in. It's fun. It's fun. Despite what I've said, we're having a lot of fun here, and now's the moment to get involved. For all the reasons we talked about, in terms of it's your brain we need, so come bring it. So to that point, my advice would be and is develop your strategic brain. Okay, it doesn't matter which area you're getting into. This is my advice. Whether if you're getting into a strategic side of the business, that's obvious. But even if you're starting out as a junior account manager or project manager or a creative in any of these aspects, and you're going to come into B2B, develop your appreciation for the transfer of business strategy to brand strategy. Okay. Everybody's allowed to do this. And you've got an LLM buddy right now that can teach you the principles of it. You can have that lesson right now. Go do it with Claude. It will be really good. Go do it with ChatGPT. It will be really good and it will start to help you understand it. Because if you don't do that early on, you won't be able to be a part of conversations that are the most important in B2B marketing. And those are the strategic conversations at
Yep.
any level. So get good at that now, because after a while, it becomes intimidating and you won't want to be a part. You'll find those conversations be above your head and you'll be too scared to contribute and all those things. Whereas if you just start off, because it's not actually rocket science. It can be a bit complicated, but if you start to know how to play the game, it's like chess. If you understand how to play chess, suddenly you can play chess, right? And if you can't, and you sit down at a chessboard with a chess player, then yeah, it's going to be a really sad, intimidating, miserable experience for you. So number one, strategy is always going to be the realm of humans, and the best bits of strategy will come from humanity because those are the little twists of originality you need to make a difference. That's number one. Number two, get on the tools, get involved with the AI tools right now
Yes.
and
Yes.
in every way you possibly can. So if you haven't vibe coded yet, vibe code. I've only done one vibe coding project, but at least I did it and I'm starting to explore. And but I'm at the end of my career, right? I'm in a place where I don't know whether I'll ever need to vibe code something before
Yeah.
before I actually, before I'm just too old to write another article. Yeah.
Can you imagine if we were in our 20s and we had vibe coding available as a resource?
Wow. Just unbelievable. So I'm I'm just saying I advocate that these tools are there and you've got to use them and have fun with them and get involved and really explore what the possibilities are, because then you will be part of the evolving conversation. That is by far the most important, probably in the history of B2B marketing. Let's face it. So there you go. That's my
That's
pieces of
great
advice.
advice. Great advice. I appreciate that, and I think people watching, listening will too. So thanks for that. So here's our final question, and this is one I ask everyone on the show. If you weren't doing this, right? If marketing never happened for you in your career, what would your dream job be?
Wow. Yeah. I do you know what I think it would be? In all honesty, this was the one question that I didn't think about actually. Just so everybody knows, I was sent a previous set of questions, and so I could think about the answers, which is how you should do a podcast, by the way, because much better for the results. But I didn't think about this one, and so I'm gonna have to say, right, it would be one of right, I'm gonna go with 2 things here because I've always I just love the outdoors, and I would have loved to have an outdoorsy job, and so park ranger would be my top one of my top jobs for outdoors, okay? So I'd be a park ranger. I'd love to look after the national parks of Britain. I'd love to come over and help consult on how to keep Yellowstone Park pristine and do stuff like that. So I love the outdoors. So that would be I'm park ranger. And the other thing, basically, that one of the hardest jobs in the world, which I still might try one day, and that's a novelist. And I don't know a
Oh,
B2B cop I don't know a B2B copywriter that doesn't dream of being a novelist one day. But, I'm inspired by my dad, who, funnily enough, started out as a B2B copywriter. And you know how don't know what your dad did as you were growing up because you just weren't interested? I only realized what he was when I became one myself. And so
wow.
apologies to dad, but he finds it funny. But then the inspirational part is in his mid 50s, which I'm now approaching, he stopped being a B2B copywriter and became a screenwriter, and a playwright. So so he's now had successful plays and films made,
Amazing.
and it is amazing. It is amazing. That was his second career, and it was a big roll of the dice for him. He'd made enough money to be able to launch that second career, but it was a big roll of the dice, and fair play, it came off. So I have that as inspiration.
You
I
do.
apologize. I followed your footsteps by accident, Dad, into B2B copywriting with no idea what it was you were doing. And I may yet follow you as a creative writer
Well, I can't
at
wait to
some
see what
point in
you
the
what you
future.
come up with, for your novel. So, looking forward to it. You're on the hook
Yeah.
now, Ruben.
Yeah, yeah, I've gotta do it now. Oh, no, I said it on camera.
Yeah, you did. So, this has been fantastic. I love this conversation, and I don't think there's enough that can be said about the importance of creativity and marketing and B2B especially. It's some great opportunities, some great insights that you've shared. Thank you so much. Where's the best place for people to connect with you?
Oh, so you can find me on LinkedIn. So if you just search Reuben Webb at the drum, you'll definitely find me there. And please reach out to me there, message me if you've got your B2B campaigns that you think are awesome, send it to me. Because if I agree, it's going to be up there on the drum platform in a flash.
There you
Um,
go.
So yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find. Make sure you spell my name correctly. It's Reubden. That's what catches everybody out. But yeah, um, that's where to find me.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I want to thank you for tuning into the Beyond B2B Marketing podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you can stay tuned for our next guest. And remember, there's no better time than now to break free of boring B2B.